Hi everyone, this is Dr. Anamta Rizvi, your UPSC faculty for English Literature optional subject. And today we are going ahead with the second part of the previous lecture. So, last week मैंने lecture लिया था. In that I discussed that the era till the Victorian period. अब हम लोग Victorian period से कैसे Second World War तक पहुँचेंगे. Everything will be discussed in this class. So about myself, I'm Dr. Anamta Rizvi. I did my PhD from the Department of English, Jamia Millia Islamia. I qualified GRF. I have mentored a lot of UPSC students as well as NET GRF students and other competitive examinations students in the domain of literature, English literature. And I have recently authored a book with S. Chand Publication House pertaining to English literature, of course. And I have published in Macmillan as well as many other articles and Times of India as well and all. So let's go ahead. That's about me. So let's go ahead with the lecture for the day. So historical, literal, cultural background, socio-political background from 1790 to post Second World War. हम लोग ने 1790 से लेकर Victorian age तक part 1 cover कर ली. ये part 2 है class का. So all the students जिन्हें नहीं देखा है, you guys can see part 1 as well as part 2. But जिन्हें नहीं देखा है, वो part 2 भी देख सकते हैं because it's just the same introduction आपको एकदम same मिलेगा and everything would be, the content will be starting from the modern era. Let's see. Okay. So guys, going ahead with this. All right. So guys, before that, just I'll just take 2 minutes. 22nd January से course शुरू हो रहा है for UPSC students जो कि English literature को optional subject लेना चाहते हैं. You can use my code AR Life. You will further get good discount and the entire syllabus will be covered. And we'll try our best case. May 6 months, everything will be covered and there'll be writing practices. There'll be one-to-one discussion with the students and so on. All right. You can go on the website, have a look at the course, go ahead, purchase it and be a part of my classes. All right. Moving ahead. So guys, transition from the Victorian era to the modern age की historical context. Now before we move ahead to that, Victorian age के बारे में हम लोग बात कर लेते हैं. Victorian age was a age जहाँ पे scientific revolution शुरू हुआ था. 1859 में Charles Darwin का Origin of Species आ गया था, which shook the entire foundation of England. Primarily why? Because the Christian belief that हम लोग descendants हैं Adam and Eve से, that completely shook the ground. Okay, तो ये जब आया that the evolution of ape to human beings, this was very very revolutionary for that age. तो on science and technology आ रही थी. जो novels थे, novel was the genre that was predominating. Why? Because novel became firstly the major source of entertainment. A voice for the voiceless. Why? Because realism बहुत ही nuanced way में दिखाया जाता, चाहे वो विलियम मेकपीस ठाकरे हो, चाहे वो चार्ल्स डिकन्स हो, चाहे वो थॉमस हार्डी हो, जॉर्ज एलियट हो. So realism was being portrayed in a very very explicit manner and of course in an entertaining format. Secondly and thirdly, printing press was rampant. The rage of printing press, उसकी वजह से novels were a rage at that time. So Victorian age ये था. So this was a tumultuous age. It was a very quiet age politically, but yes, income inequalities thi, and we knew that England is moving ahead towards something that was a modern age. Okay, so here we are going ahead with this. So talking about this, over here as you see, the Victorian era to the modern age, end of Queen Victoria's reign in 1901. So coincidentally, जो हमारा Victorian age है वो बोला जाता है कि 1837 से लेकर 1901 तक. 1901 why? 1901 by firstly Queen Victoria, who was ruling from 1837 to 1901, she expired, she died. So things of course escalated in a different direction. This marks the conclusion of a long period of stability. Political stability, कोई war नहीं हुआ था, कोई civil war नहीं था, income inequality जरूर आई थी, but there was nothing that was mayhem, confusion, pandemonium ऐसा कुछ नहीं था England में. And prosperity under the Queen Victoria rule, and of course colonial expansion. We can never forget that colonial expansion England was expanding its colonization process in a very very speedy manner. Okay, and of course gaining a lot. So the societal and political landscape began to shift significantly after her death. So this is important. Now 1901 से लेकर, if we know that when did the First World War start? In 1914. So 14 साल में ऐसा कुछ हो गया. In 13-14 years, things changed so drastically that a First World War had to happen in Europe. Okay, so we are going to go ahead with this. So then So this is the, so what did we see कि थोड़ा सा there is Queen Victoria का reign end हुआ है 1901 में, a very a time wherein just the modern age has started, the 20th century started. 1901 के बाद हम लोग क्या consider करते हैं? Modern age. Okay, so now moving ahead to this impact of the Boer War 1899 से लेकर 1902 तक एक Boer War हुई थी. Okay, now what was that? Let us look at that. Okay, so shattered the aggressive imperialism of late Victorian years, redirected focus from overseas expansion to domestic social issues. This was very, very crucial and initiated a period of sweeping social reforms and significant progress in public welfare. जब Boer War हुआ इनका 3 साल के लिए, so what happened was that जो इनका the aggression that they had to expand the colonization का process जो था, imperialistic process जो था इनका, they subdued a bit and they realized कि हमारे देश के अंदर क्या हो रहा है. They needed reforms. They were, of course, bringing in reforms. Social issues had to be discussed. As I mentioned, income inequalities इतनी बढ़ गई थी that the poor were actually living a very wretched life. Okay, so this had to be redirected, and that is what the government, the monarchy thought that हमें अपना focus करना पड़ेगा अपने देश के अंदर, otherwise it will be totally shattered. Okay, moving ahead. So this was something that was, so you can see that towards the end of the 19th century, things are moving, escalating towards not a very positive direction. The graph is going towards a negative direction. Okay. Now, emergence of social conscience. A new awareness of social issues led to development of expansion of local government, improvements in health, education, overall citizen well-being. क्या फोकस आ गया कि भैया इंग्लैंड के अंदर हमें देखना है that are people living a healthy life, a prosperous life, enough of filling our treasury with lots of money and everything. They realized that the real wealth lies in the well-being of the citizens. So political issues became increasingly tied to class loyalties. So this became very important. Okay, that of course there were parties, and some parties were in favor of maintaining the status quo, jaisa hai chal raha hai, let the income inequalities be there, and other party was completely for making sure that everybody is living in a very healthy, wealthy and an equal manner. Okay, so moving ahead to that, a rise of the Labour Party and class struggle. Now this is a point towards the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, that what actually rose was the Labour Party. Rise of the Labour Party and class struggles. Here is where the voiceless, the poor, are getting a voice. Okay. So you can look at this also. Look at the Labour Party. The Labour Party emerged and grew rapidly as a political force. जो भी कॉमन मैन के लिए आवाज उठाएगा ना, वो बहुत स्पीडली बढ़ेगा, राइट? एंड दैट इज व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इट इज बीइंग शोन हियर. Widespread labor unrest occurred. Okay, of course, laborers were together. Widespread labor unrest occurred, often linked to the expansion of the trades unionism. Political passions intensified, leading to significant social and economic agitation. So things were pretty, you can say, fragmented, tumultuous, or they were not certain, because up tha ke, enough of tolerating so much of exploitation from the upper class, the elite class. Things had to be tolerated, things had to be given them some opportunity to grow in life and to have a healthy life, at least not an exploitative life. Labour Party was for that, for people, became a voice for the voiceless. Okay, moving ahead to the next one, you have key issues of the era. Home rule for Ireland continued to be a contentious political issue. Now, this is important that, Ireland ki taraf bhi, things were not very easy from the island perspective also, because Ireland was also like, hame khud ko rule karna hai, please England just go away. But home rule for Ireland continued to be a contentious political issue. Contentious matlab a political issue जहाँ पे बड़ा विवाद होता था. They were not letting Ireland go, और Ireland को चाहिए था कि हमें खुद का अपना independence चाहिए. So free trade versus protection divided political opinion and economic policy. Votes for women. The suffragette movement gained momentum, fighting for women's enfranchisement. So of course, when we talk about the gender, the class, the caste, whoever was oppressed, everybody was coming to the forefront saying that we have a voice, we need to participate, हमें भी रहना है. Suffragette movement जब हुआ था around 1920s में, that was the first time when women were allowed to vote for the government. पहली बार ऐसा हुआ था कि women were allowed to go and vote. ये 1920s में हुआ था suffragette movement, and this this was you can say again a revolution in itself, because it was a big fight for the women who were fighting that हमारा भी say होना चाहिए, who is ruling us, what political party, we need to have the right to vote. Decline of agriculture and urbanization, shift from rural to urban living caused social and economic challenges. Of course, there was rapid urbanization, industrialization हो रहा था, scientific revolution आ रहा था, agriculture was declining, urbanization was increasing. We can totally see this in Thomas Hardy's work, in William Makepeace Thackeray's work, that how for a good living, kaise, the simple village people used to move to urban areas and still not get the progress. So of course, unki very realistic novels hoti hain. We'll of course come to them later. But this, just imagine that this was a scenario in the beginning of the 20th century wherein there was unrest among the people. अब लोग कह रहे थे कि हम इतना एक्सप्लॉइट नहीं होंगे, चाहे वो जेंडर हो, चाहे वो क्लास हो, एंड दे स्टार्टेड टू स्पीक फॉर देमसेल्व्स. ओके, चाहे वो लेबर पार्टी हो, चाहे वो सफ्रेजेट मूवमेंट हो, चाहे वुमेन हो, एवरीबडी वाज कमिंग टू द फोरफ्रंट. सो आप समझ सकते हो कि शुरुआत की 20th सेंचुरी थे वो मॉडर्न एज क्यों उसको बोला जाता है. ओके, देन मूविंग अहेड टू द नेक्स्ट वन. Growing European involvement. Britain abandoned its policy of avoiding European countries due to the rise of German power. Now we know that during these 10, 12, 14 years, German power was increasing very rapidly. So growing European involvement. Britain abandoned its policy of avoiding European conflicts due to the rise of German power. Escalating national rivalries culminated in the First World War, 1914-1918, a catastrophic global conflict. जितना भी political upheaval हो रहा था, जितना भी ups and downs हो रहे थे, Britain was a part of it, and of course within such a prominent place in the Europe, it cannot just let go of whatever was happening politically. 1914 में जब First World War हुआ, this was the time wherein things completely deteriorated for the entire Europe. We know that everybody has read about First World War. इसका literature पे क्या impact हुआ था? किस तरह से poetry, culture, arts, novel, everything was being affected, and what exactly was being shown in those novels and what was happening. We will explicitly, we'll read that everything in detail. So over here, this is an important aspect wherein this led to First World War, and this completely deteriorated the conditions of that time. Next, moving ahead to this one, literary developments in the pre-war years 1902 to 1918. Now this is a very, very important one. अभी तक हम लोग ने social political milieu देखा, हम लोग ने situation देखा कि किस तरह से England आ रहा था, कैसे बन रहा था, how things were changing, improving. Now we are going to look at the political, just a second. Yeah. Just a second, guys. So we'll go at the literary developments. Now, expansion of educational opportunity, Education Act of 1902. As I mentioned, enough of expansion that they were having, the colonial expansion, उन्होंने बोला कि we need to look within our country also. तो क्या education policy आया 1902 में? Enabled access to education from elementary school to university for the poorest students with merit. Now, this was, of course, a wonderful thing, that a reform bill जो आया था, education bill. Literacy became widespread, profoundly influencing literature. So क्या हुआ कि literature became very, very popular during that time, also because इतना ज़्यादा आप education आ गया था, free education मिल रही थी, England was getting educated completely. So this of course had a very positive impact on literature. Moving ahead, impact on literature, increased demand for classics and fiction. Demand बढ़ गई थी. Classics कौन थे? जैसे आपका जो last century के Dickens थे, Hardy थे, and then of course Milton, Shakespeare, Joseph Addison, Swift, Alexander Pope, John Dryden, Ben Jonson, all the previous writers who had gained such a huge prominent place within the canon of English literature, they were the classics and they were being read a lot. So increased demand for classic and fiction, educational works, example science, history and travel. Literature became more financially viable as both a profession as well as a business. चाहे आप publication house हो, you will get rich. You will get rich. Okay. चाहे आपका, just a second, guys. चाहे you are going ahead. Give me 1 minute, please. Yeah, sorry. So chahe you're having a publication house, you are going to have a good wealth, even if you're a writer. So writer, profession, lecturers, teachers of English literature became really, really rich at that time. Why? Because it was one of the most demanded subjects of that period. So literature became more financially viable as both a profession as well as a business. Then enormous output of books, rapid increase in book production thanks to the printing press that was there. Consequences, emergence of pot boilers by lesser authors seeking financial gain. तो क्या हुआ था कि ऐसे किताबें आ गई just for fun, just for entertainment. Nothing like William Faulkner or Virginia Woolf or Henry James. It was just those books just for entertainment and of course not very high standard. So even renowned writers succumbed to overproduction, compromising artistic quality. Literature commercialization reached unprecedented level. Just a second. Literature's commercialization reached unprecedented levels to trends still growing today. So literature का जो commercialization था अभी भी है, लोग commercially बहुत ज़्यादा books लिखते हैं so that they can mint some money. However, at that time, because literature was the only source of entertainment, hardly no TV, no social media, what else will you do? So of course, reading was one of the most crucial forms of entertainment. Then moving ahead, literature of social purpose, spread of literacy awakened national awareness of the social issues from the Industrial Revolution. Now, this was the period when, what exactly, किस theme से book आने लगी? The social issues from the Industrial Revolution. So, awaken national awareness. मतलब देश के लिए हमें क्या करना है, देश में क्या हो रहा है, what are the social issues that were happening, चाहे education हो गया, reform movements हो गया, anything. So novels started addressing that. Reform through literature, writers used novels and serious theatre as platforms for social reform and propaganda, and problem plays and socially conscious novels became defining literary forms. So what those novels जो कि didactic थी, didactic मतलब जो teach कर रही थी, बता रही थी कि ऐसा करो, ये करो. Plays also, theatre ने बहुत important role किया, जैसे कि G.B. Shaw, George Bernard Shaw है, J.M. Synge है. All these writers, all these playwrights were also targeting कि ये problems हैं England में, इनको सुधारना है. So a lot of novel became relevant because of the social issues that they were addressing, as well as plays were all addressing those as the social issues. So this became a very, very important, significant aspect of literature during that period. Then we have, okay, yes. So dominance of the novel, again, as I say, entertainment के format में या कुछ कहने के लिए कुछ भी, novel became a very important tool, weapon, source, whatever that you can say, to spread literacy among people and to create a sense of awareness and an intellect, a sort of wisdom that this is happening, and this actually worked. So for the first time, the novel became the dominant literary form of English literature. Victorian era में तो चल रहा था, and then in modern era also novels became very crucial. Reason for its popularity: prose fiction appealed to the semi-educated masses, unlike poetry, which required a more refined taste. Poetry, of course, requires more refined taste. Poetry को समझना थोड़ा सा, of course, it is difficult, right? Because you got to understand, you got to have references and everything. But novel is easier to understand, to comprehend. So novels were accessible and ideal for sociological studies, a key focus of the period's great writers. Okay, you can see this is the reason that novel writing with these other popular हो गई थी during that period. So rebirth of drama. Now, as we see, Victorian era में कोई dramatist थे नहीं. 1890 के बाद से G.B. Shaw, Oscar Wilde, J.M. Synge, and there came a rage of dramatists. फिर से a form of entertainment emerged, and that was drama. wonderful period for drama is the modern age. So after a century of decline, drama regained significance. Dramatists address contemporary social issues, जो चल रहा था कि बिल्कुल address करेंगे, तभी तो लोगों को मजा आता था. People were eager to go to the theaters to see what's happening and accept it, and उस पर discussions होते थे, intellect बढ़ता था, wisdom आती थी, तो everybody was very eager to go as an audience. Most plays were written in prose, although poetic drama revival also began. Poetic drama होता है जहाँ पे जो आपका dialogues होते थे more poetic in structure. Okay, T.S. Eliot ने बड़ा इस पे काम किया है, and G.B. Chaucer was more into prose writing. Okay, and prose writing is simple dialogue जो अभी भी हमारे चलता है. Key dramatists combined artistic genius with practical theatrical experience to create vibrant, relevant works. And this, you can see a kind of a stage जहाँ पे सारे dramas होते थे, and dramas became a very good, important source of entertainment also. Then you have experiments in literary form. Now जैसे जैसे novels आएंगे, जैसे लोग drama लिखेंगे, novels लिखेंगे, experiments तो होंगे ही, right? So shift from traditional forms by 1980. The traditional forms in poetry, novel, drama, they all were considered outdated. They were like, अब हमें कुछ नए तरीके से poetry लिखनी है, नए तरीके से drama लिखना है. So innovations, drama में the most rapid progress reflected new social and artistic demands. Okay, so drama में progress आता, चाहे वो poetic हो, you know, drama की themes में बहुत आया था. जैसे because अगर एक century पहले आप देखिए, Restoration age was all about fun, frolic, comedy, you know, obscene scenes and everything. Now everything was very, very realistic. Realism पे focus हो रहा था, social issues पे focus हो रहा था. Novels underwent revolutionary changes in structure and style, though sometimes overshadowed by post-war innovations. Experiments were less dramatic, with much work adhering to traditional forms. For instance, novels में क्या आया? जैसे stream of consciousness technique, जो कि वर्जीनिया वुल्फ है, जेम्स जॉयस है, ये लोग stream of consciousness technique में novels लिखने लगे. I'm just giving you a very small example that what all was there. So this experimentation was what you know. It was basically जहाँ पे writers without any hesitation, without any pause, they are just writing exactly what is coming in their mind. तो जब आप उनकी books पढ़ते हो ना, चाहे विलियम फॉकनर हो, जेम्स जॉयस हो, वर्जीनिया वुल्फ हो, इसमें से विलियम फॉकनर, जेम्स जॉयस तो नोबेल प्राइज विनर्स है. इन लोगों ने जब स्ट्रीम ऑफ कॉन्शियसनेस टेक्निक लिखा, द बुक्स आर नॉट इजी टू रीड ऑल्सो. वैन सी आप विलियम फॉकनर की बुक उठाइए, यू आर एग्जैक्टली रीडिंग व्हाट ही वाज थिंकिंग एट दैट टाइम. जैसे हम लोग क्या करते हैं, राइट नाउ आई एम टीचिंग, but in my mind it is also running, okay, I have to run for this chores also, I have to do this also. For instance, I'll just give you a small example. You are cleaning a table, you're cleaning a table and then you're thinking of that, okay, अच्छा इसको table को clean करना है, okay, अच्छा इस पे book रखी है, I have to keep that book on the table. ओ वो वाली बुक कहाँ गई, वो वाली बुक क्या मैंने अपनी फ्रेंड को दी थी, अच्छा मेरे फ्रेंड उसकी तो शादी हो गई है, अच्छा उसके तो 2 बच्चे भी हैं. सो कैन यू सी where your thoughts are going? This is exactly the stream of consciousness. It is a stream like a river and your thoughts are going in any which direction, and exactly उसी की तरह से novelists अपने writing लिखते थे. This became a very good experimentation form. It was very popular also. Okay, so this was poetry. Experiments were less dramatic with much work adhering to traditional form. Poetry में इतना experiments नहीं हुए थे, but yes, novel saw a lot of experimentation as well as drama. Okay. So then you have decline of poetry. For the first time in many years, the poetry became the least significant of the major literary forms. This period was marked by significant social cultural literacy transformation, laying the foundation for modern literature through engagement and formal experiment. 1922 में हमारा फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर कब खत्म हुआ? 1918-1919 में. 1922 में जब T.S. Eliot द वेस्टलैंड लाए थे, पोएम है वो, पोइट्री है. सो जब वो लाए थे, दैट वाज समथिंग कि पोइट्री में फिर से एक इम्पेटस आया था. लेकिन पोइट्री काफ़ी डिक्लाइन हो गई थी बिकॉज एजुकेशन इतना ज़्यादा आ गया था. मासेस वर द वंस वर एजुकेटेड. सो व्हाट डू द मासेस नीड? द मासेस नीड मोर ऑफ novel, okay, entertainment चाहिए था. So this is the reason poetry declined. Poetry is basically for the people जिनको सब कुछ literature और बारीकी तरीके से, nuance तरीके से समझ आता है, ठीक है. Okay, so this was the initial years of the 20th century, the modern age that we are discussing. Moving ahead to 1918 to 1939, from the end of the First World War to the beginning of the Second World War. We are moving ahead to that. Now let us look at this. सो हिस्टोरिकल कंटेक्स्ट द इंटरवॉर पीरियड, जो इसको इंटरवॉर पीरियड्स कहते हैं, मतलब 1918 में आपका फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर खत्म हुआ, 1939 में सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर शुरू हुआ. सो डोमिनेंस ऑफ द वर्ल्ड वॉर्स, दिस एरा वॉज प्रोफाउंडली इन्फ्लुएंस्ड बाय द आफ्टरमाथ ऑफ फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर. फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर, यू नो, ड्रेड करते हैं. अगर छोटा सा भी एक विवाद हो जाता है हमारे शहर में भी, एवरीवन इज स्कैर्ड दैट, यू नो, शुड नॉट एस्केलेट, शुड नॉट टच मेनी लाइव्स. इमेजिन अ वर्ल्ड वॉर हैपनिंग. What could have been the consequences, the aftermath? They were wretched, deplorable, pathetic. They were absolutely horrendous, obnoxious, whatever that you could say, right? So this era was profoundly influenced by aftermath of the First World War. The Treaty of Versailles shaped international relations. Focus on foreign affairs was definitely there. Challenges in establishing the League of Nations, instability in the Middle East, and troubles in India as well as Ireland. India was also vouching for its freedom. Ireland was also looking for its freedom. So internationally, things were very tumultuous, difficult. Everything was topsy-turvy. जो एक आन बान शान इंग्लैंड एक टाइम पे अपना जी रहा था ना, everything was going downhill. Okay, so now let's go ahead with this. So 1918 में बात कर रहे हैं हम लोग. Prelude to the World War II. Rise of the Nazis in Germany, 1933 onward. Now this was a time when we know that the Second World War was all about Germany taking power. The rise of the Nazis in Germany heightened global tensions. 1933 onward, जब Nazis in Germany totally took over the control, it was a very, very difficult time. From 1934 to 1939, Europe experienced increasing political instability, which led to the Second World War. Domestic challenges, economic distress. The general strike of 1926 highlighted the struggles of the working class during the post-war economic slump. The Great Depression in the early 1930s brought widespread poverty and unemployment, particularly in industrial regions. Of course, there was huge economic challenges. Okay, so general strike of 1926, this highlighted the struggle of the working class during the post-war period. So can you imagine the amount of resources, the amount of wealth, the amount of treasure that is lost in any war? And of course, was a world war. इसके बाद जो poverty strike हुआ था in all these countries, that was unprecedented. Okay, you can't even imagine the loss of life, the loss of homes, the loss of people, and of course the loss of income and jobs. So this became a huge concern. Then you have recovery through rearmament. Economic revival began in the mid-1930s as industries now focused on rearmament in preparation for impending conflict. Now all the countries were now focusing that we know कि एक second world war भी होने जा रहा है. 1930s का जब शुरुआत का पीरियड था, it was all about keeping yourself well equipped, keeping the country well equipped, protection के लिए, लड़ने के लिए के. So you can imagine जहाँ पे a country needs to have the support of the government was all looking for its military support, right? Shift in national mood, post-war gaiety, and immediate response to World War I was a period of desperate gaiety and frivolity, reflecting a need to escape trauma. What happened was, First World War ke baad, you know, there, of course, things were so sad that, you know, ekdam se you need some support, right? Otherwise, everything was going downhill. So, ekdam se there was a need to have some pleasure, some gaiety, some happiness in the life to escape this trauma. This was also a very important point जहाँ पे literature का एक बहुत ही important role था, and we'll see that. Okay, so this was a period wherein an immediate response to the First World War was a period of desperate gaiety. कि कुछ तो खुशी रखो, we need to hold on to some happiness, some pleasure, otherwise we are going to get lost in this world. So, and frivolity reflecting a need to escape the trauma. वो trauma को escape करना था. Okay, First World War के trauma को. Doubt and introspection over time. Society experienced ethical, social and political uncertainties. A deeper questioning of national and individual purposes. Unanimity of purposes 1939 में आया था. The evaluation of Dunkirk 1940 and the onset of World War II united the nation with a renewed sense of determination. अब जब war आई, everybody knew that now we are going to face another Second World War. Everybody was tense. However, जब ऐसा कुछ होता है, the entire country comes together and all the purposes कि हमें अपने देश को बचाना है. So of course, वो जो sense of, you can say, camaraderie, sense of unity, the jingoism that gets when you have that a war is impending on your country, you'd come together. This was a mahal, this was the entire circumstances during that time, during that period. Okay, then you have foreign and domestic milestones. Treaties of Locarno 1925 temporarily eased European tensions. There was a treaty, temporarily तो सब कुछ normal हो गया था, but again Germany was not at all withdrawing at all. Growing nationalism and global conflict. Nazis' Germany expansion destabilized Europe and fueled the preparations for the war. Now this was a period wherein Nazi Germany knew that we cannot withdraw at all. We have to fight the war, right? So this period was defined by pendulum swing between despair and resilience, economic struggles and recovery, societal fragmentation, societal fragmentation and unity, culminating a renewed national purpose during the Second World War. The Second World War की तरफ से pendulum था, desperate gaiety, एक था कि we got to get the pleasure, happiness that we need to have after First World War. उसके बाद धीरे धीरे जा रहे थे जहाँ पे इतनी ज़्यादा इकोनॉमिक स्ट्रगल्स थी, इतना ज़्यादा फाइट था. सो थिंग्स वर कि रेजिलियंस भी था कि हमें ओवरकम करना है. उसके बाद you know that a second world war is impending. So you can imagine that the time was very difficult for the entire Europe during that period. Moving ahead, you have literary features of the interwar period. Now let us have a look at this कि क्या literature evolve हो रहा था. First World War के बाद, if you genuinely look at some of the poetry, especially war poets के नाम से, which we will also be reading in the syllabus, जो जैसे आपके सीट्रेड ससून है, विल्फ्रेड ओवन है, all these writers were giving such a realistic picture portrayal of the war that it was very, very heart-shattering, heart-wrenching. So the breakdown of established values, so literature of this period reflected the uncertainty and disorientation of the post-World War. So uncertainty कि कभी भी कुछ भी हो सकता है. Okay, there was nothing is certain in this world, because imagine there were young deaths, husbands died, sons died, brothers died, and everybody was in a very shell shock. Actually, England was in a shell shock. So accepted spiritual and social. Now this became a very important aspect. See, over here, just a second. So accepted spiritual and societal values were questioned, leading to a variety of literary expressions. Now, there was such a huge sense of loss over the belief that God is there. पहली बार इतना bloodshed हुआ था in a modern age. Okay, we are not talking about medieval ages. जहाँ पे लड़ाई, अब तक ऐसा कोई war नहीं हुआ है. First World War में जब हुआ था, of course there was questioning on God, whether God is there, how can he allow something like this to happen? So accepted spiritual and societal values were questioned, leading to a variety of literary expression. बहुत literature इस पे आया है, that इसी time पे आया है your existential crisis. Why are we in this world? What are we doing in this world? For what is the purpose? Is there God? Who is this God? Okay, all these questions which had never been there, all these questions were asked. Okay, so the breakdown of established values. Then comes your point wherein, so exploration of political and psychological, ये आपकी themes थी जो कि literature में था. Exploration of political and psychological perspectives as means to find new values. The diverse reactions to societal change were mirrored in novels, poetry, drama and prose. I'll give you an example. For instance, T.S. Eliot का जो Wasteland आया था 1922 में, उसके बाद 1920s में later में W.B. Yeats का The Second Coming आया. Everything was signifying that we are coming to the doomsday. We are coming to the end of the world, because इतना bloodshed हुआ, इतने लोग मरे. It is nothing but an apocalyptic world wherein everything is coming to the end. This exactly was the fervor during that period. So exploration of political and psychological perspectives as means to find new values, and the diverse reactions to societal change were mirrored in novels, poetry, drama and prose and every other form. Okay. Resurgence of poetry. Now this was a time, जैसे कि हम लोगों ने देखा कि शुरुआत की मॉडर्न एज में पोएट्री डिक्लाइन की गई थी. 1918 के बाद पोएट्री राइज कर गई. क्यों? क्योंकि जैसे वॉर पोएट्स थे. पोएट्री इज बेसिकली टेलिंग यू अबाउट लाइफ इन अ वेरी वेरी वर्ड्स which actually fulfill your soul. And that is exactly what Europe needed at that time, especially England. So the resurgence of poetry, pre-war decline, poetry had been overshadowed by novels and drama. हम लोगों ने देखा था शुरुआत की मॉडर्न एज पे, बट रियलाइजेशन पोइट्स लाइक टी.एस. एलियट जो कि 1920s फर्स्ट वर्ल्ड वॉर के बाद आए थे, W.B. Yeats, T.S. Eliot, W.H. Auden, Cecil D. Lewis, and Louis MacNeice, war poets with Sassoon, Wilfred Owen, so brought poetry back into prominence. All these were very, very important poets, especially T.S. Eliot and W.B. Yeats. Poetry became more closely connected to life, addressing contemporary issues. And what were the contemporary issues? That the world is ending, that the loss of life, the First World War, all these were the themes, the concerns. So although the novel retained its primacy, poetry surpassed drama as a vital literary form. Novel was subjugating, novel was there, being there and dominating the scene. Subjugate nahi hua tha. However, poetry was also rising, but yes, drama mein decline tha. Especially G.B. Shaw also died around, he died later, but G.B. Shaw के जितने भी plays थे वो भी decline करने लगे थे. Drama was in a way declining. However, poetry was taking the entire scene very, very fervently. Then you have variety of technical experiment, bold and varied experiments define the period driven by the quest for the new values, revolutionary approaches. Novels explored innovative structure, narrative, drama and poetry experimented with language, themes and presentation styles. We knew that कि अभी बाद में जितने भी आते, there was more experimentation, spoken on experimentation. So all kind of experimentations there, many things were being experimented in writing every which form. Okay, as we will read the text, we will also get to know more of this. Okay, then influence of radio and cinema. Now this is important. Radio and cinema became quite popular, okay, during that time. So radio naya aaya tha, cinema bhi. So this brought literature into homes through broadcast of stories, plays and literary discussions, opened new opportunity for authors क्योंकि जो लिखते थे वही TV पे, screen पे, cinema में आने लगा. Negative impact, excessive availability of lower quality entertainment, reduced time for reading. Of course, जब entertainment आपको बिना पढ़े मिल रहा है, people would prefer radio, cinema. So this kind of decreased the habit of reading as well as low quality production of books. Okay, this became a little negative impact. Then you have, cinema. This became cinema जब आया था, this became a primary leisure activity for many people. Adaptations होने लगे novels की, okay, and common through the cinemas. Impact on literacy interest was less significant than radio, and film techniques आने लगी, नई तरीके का cinema आने लगा. जब cinema आया तो of course people were all going to, this is the reason that theatre also declined. You know, जब cinema आने लगा तो people were preferring the silver screen more than the stage. Okay, so this was also the reason cinema jab aaya, the drama also gradually declined. Okay, so the speed of life during the interwar years was characterized by restlessness and haste. आप समझ सकते हो 1918 से लेकर 1939 तक interwar years जो थे, of course there was restlessness. People were completely restless, in haste, जल्दबाजी में कि करना क्या है, कितना जी लें. Okay, so restlessness and haste, a demand for rapid action and intense stimuli in work and leisure. Okay, negative impact क्या था? The frenetic pace of life hindered the calmness of spirit and leisure of mind necessary for literary pursuits. तो क्या था? इतना जब hectic life हो गया, तो literature decline होगा, right? Literature needs to be, writing needs to be written in peace, शांत में, अकेले बैठ के. But ऐसा नहीं था. Everything, चाहे वो economically हो, socially हो, politically हो, everything was so difficult, topsy-turvy, tumultuous during that period that yes, things were restless, that people were restless, people were in haste, and वही होते ना कि modern life में भागदौड़ वाली जिंदगी है, वही हो गया था. So this was also when the literature also declined during that period. So this period marked a profound transformation in literature, and this reflected societal upheaval. This is important, guys, that what it showed, a societal upheaval, rapid technological advancements were there. Why? Because of course, चाहे वो आर्ममेंट्स के लिए हो, चाहे वो एक सुपर पावर कंट्री बनने के लिए हो, अपने कंट्री को आगे रखने के लिए हो. There were high level of technological advancements and a restless modern ethos while also striving for innovation and a deeper meaning in the face of uncertainty. Okay, so this was a period of the Second World War when things were uncertain, different, and जो हम लोग को, you can say the era was completely different from what was a peaceful age of the Victorian era. इसके सामने तो Victorian era कुछ लगता ही नहीं है. Very simple, right? So guys, this was the Second World War till here that we discussed. Just a second. Okay, so guys, with this I am coming to an end of my lecture on the Second World War. अभी हम लोग आगे करने वाले हैं all of course the entire till the contemporary time we'll be discussing. So now I will be going ahead with the classes on 22nd January. Okay, जितनी भी अब मेरी classes होंगी, the academic classes, I'll be conducting them on the paid course that I have starting on 22nd January. The course is for 14,999. You can use my code AR Live, get a good discount on that. You will be getting complete mentorship for your UPSC optional English literature subject, चाहे वो writing हो, answer writing ho, from your doubts to entire syllabus. Of course we'll be covering, and a lot of my students must have had the entire syllabus also क्योंकि मैंने videos ही बना के डाली थी. So with that note, guys, also literature जो option ले रहे हैं, I would just suggest one thing, that if you have a good sense of reading and if you're an avid reader, excellent. If you have the habit of reading, if you want to inculcate the habit of reading, then only you can be a part of it, because यहाँ पे पूरे text पढ़ने होंगे. So we have to because literature में आपके you can score really very well if you write good answers, and good answers requires good reading. Okay, so for that, this is for the amount of sincerity that I want from my students is something that depends on how much hard work you want to put and how much of reading that you guys can do. Okay, so this course is for all those students. Okay, so I'll see you. I hope to see all of my students who are preparing for the UPSC with the optional subject English literature. I'll see you in the classes starting from 2nd January at 1 p.m. and I'll see you all there.